Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our monthly meeting of the Cobb County Board of Zoning Appeals. And as is our custom at this time, I'd like to introduce Officer Ott. If he please come forward, ladies and gentlemen. Officer Ott is here representing all our first responders in Cobb County, and he is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So if we'd all please rise, Officer Ott will lead us in that.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Officer Ott. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that are here for the first time, let me give you a little insight on how we're going to conduct the meeting. The first thing that we're going to concern ourselves with is the consent agenda. These are applications that not only this board, but our professional and our engineering staff have reviewed. To our knowledge, there's no known opposition to any of these particular cases. So as we go forward, Mr. Peterson, our head zoning administrator, will read these cases into the record. And as he does, the applicant, he or she, as their name is called, will identify themselves by raising their hand. Likewise, if there's anybody here in opposition to any of these particular cases, if they would identify themselves as called as being in opposition, and if we do have opposition to these particular cases, we will pull that case and hear it in its regular numeric order. Our next course of business will be the held over cases that we heard and continued cases that we heard from last month. Again, the procedure will remain the same. The difference this time is if anybody, if these cases will be heard publicly, our officer of the day is Ms. Bates. Ms. Bates will call those that are going to give testimony, call you forward. Ms. Bates will swear you in. The applicant at that time will have a 10-minute period to make his presentation to this board. And likewise and collectively, the opposition will have a 10-minute period to make their opposition known to this board. All testimony will be given to the podium to my right. Once we complete that, then we'll go into our regular agenda, and again, the process will remain the same. With that said, John, do we have any special announcements to make today?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have one announcement. I would like to ask the people in today's audience, if you have a cell phone, please turn the volume off on your cell phone. They do interfere with the broadcast when they do ring. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm ready to start the consent agenda.
Okay, we're all ready, John. Let's go right to it.
Thank you. Cobb County Board of Zoning Appeals, variance hearing consent agenda for December 11th, 2019. Variance case V109, Giulietta Isa requests a variance to reduce the setbacks for an accessory structure over 650 square feet for an approximately 785 square foot existing wood frame building from required 100 feet to 33 feet adjacent to the east property line and the 39 feet adjacent to the north property line. Number 2, allow parking and or maneuvering of vehicles on a non-hard treated surface. Number 3, allow a second electrical meter on a residential lot. Number 4, reduce the rear setbacks for an accessory structure under 650 square feet for the existing pool house from required 35 feet to 0 feet. And number 5, reduce the rear setback for an accessory structure under 144 square feet for an existing shed from required 5 feet to 0 feet in land lot 669 of the 16th district. The property is located at the northern terminus of Piedmont Forest Court, east of East Piedmont Road. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions: traffic comments, stormwater management comments, and water and sewer division comments. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to the variance case of V109? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Okay. Variance case V110, Yassine Saho requests a variance to number 1, reduce the front setback from required 25 feet to 23 feet, which is existing. Number 2, reduce the rear setback from required 40 feet to 26 feet, which is existing. Number 3, reduce the minimum distance between buildings from required 15 feet to 11 feet, which is existing, adjacent to the eastern property line. And number 4, reduce the required setbacks for an accessory structure over 144 square feet for an existing approximately 176 square foot shed from required 5 feet to 1 foot adjacent to the eastern property line, and from required 40 feet to 2 feet adjacent to the northern property line in land lot 16 of the 20th district. The property is located on the north side of Wilkie Way at the northern terminus of Amber Way. Staff recommends approval. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case of V110? We got two, Mr. Chairman, so we'll pull that one off.
Well, let's pull 100, and we'll hear that in its regular numeric order. So I'm sorry, 110. We'll pull 110.
Okay?
Okay.
Variance case V113, API Partners LLC, request a variance to reduce the rear setback for an accessory structure over 144 square feet for an approximately 500 square foot garage from required 35 feet to 3 feet, which is existing, in land lot 1041 of the 19th district. The property is located on the east side of Ridgeview Drive, south of Powder Lake Lane. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Development and inspections comments. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case of V113? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case of V114, Russell and Sandra Pugh request a variance to number 1, reduce the front setback from required 35 feet to 32 feet. Number 2, reduce the side setback from required 10 feet to 8 feet adjacent to the northern property line, and that is existing. And number 3, reduce the side setback for an open and uncovered deck from required 5 feet to 2 feet adjacent to the northern property line, which is existing, in land lot 448 of the 16th district. The property is located on the east side of Shaw Road, south of Oak Springs Drive. Staff recommends approval. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to the variance case of V114? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case of V115, John R. Moeller Jr. and Lori H. Moeller request a variance to reduce the rear setback from required 30 feet to 12.5 feet in land lot 843 of the 16th district. The property is located on the north side of Kinglet Lane, east of Kinglet Court. Staff recommends approval, subject to applicant needs a permit to proposed addition. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case of V115? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V117, Joe Wade Layan Jr. requests a variance to reduce the setbacks for an accessory structure over 144 square feet for an approximately 238 square foot shed from required 10 feet adjacent to the western property line to 4 feet, which is existing, and from required 30 feet from the rear to 3 feet, which is existing, in land lot 333 of the 16th district. The property is located on the south side of Whitfield Drive, west of Winterberry Circle. Staff recommends approval. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V117? Let the record show there's no one opposed. And finally, variance case V118, Henry R. Vitale Jr. and Anita M. Vitale request a variance to allow a second electrical meter on a residential lot for an existing detached garage accessory building from previous variance case V151 in 2015 in land lot 339 of the 20th district. The property is located on the western terminus of Breckenridge Point, which is a private road, from the east side of Mars Hill Road. Staff recommends approval, subject to fire department comments. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case of V118? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Next piece of consent agenda, Mr. Chairman and Board.
Okay, it's back to this board for discussion with the exception of V110, which we will hear in our regular agenda. Any comments, questions, suggestions? Not hearing anything. Comment, Mr. Fred?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On 118, Vitale, I just want to make it clear that conditions of the variance are consistent with the application, and as stated in the application, that the property, that the garage accessory building will be used for property owner's sole non-commercial use and benefit, and there's to be no subleasing of any space in that building.
Okay, add that in. Anything else? Not hearing, I'll entertain a motion then.
Make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as amended.
I'll second.
I have a second. I got a motion, I got a second. Ladies and gentlemen, let's call for the vote. Okay, that is unanimous. We're going to vote to approve the consent agenda with the exception of V110, which we will hear later. That vote is 5-0. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you that were here for the consent agenda, your business is complete with us for today. You're welcome to stay, or you're welcome to leave. If you leave, please leave quietly, and we'll continue on with our business. Thank you, and Merry Christmas to you. All right, John, are these folks, as they're leaving, what's our first case?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Variance case V89, Justin Dumbrow and Nicole Dumbrow request a variance to 1, reduce the side setback required 10 feet to 6 feet adjacent to the north property line, which is existing. And number 2, reduce the side setback for an open uncovered deck and stairs from required 5 feet to 1.5 feet adjacent to the north property line, which is existing. And land lot 601 of the 16th district. The property is located on the west side of Barn Hill Drive, east of Blanton Court. Is the applicant present? The record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V89?
Opposition, anybody in opposition to this particular case? If you were, raise your hand, how we could see you. Okay, we've got opposition. All right, John, let's call it forward.
Okay, so that was 2 in opposition. Okay, all those wishing to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
Anybody that wanted to give any testimony at all, please come forward. All right, again, for the purpose of the record, if you would, please give us your name
Justin Dombrow.
and the young lady.
Hi, Nicole Dombrow.
Okay, we heard this case a month ago. Do you want to just quickly bring us up to date and tell us what's transpired since then, or? It's entirely up to you. Go right ahead.
Okay. Just as a reminder, we were requesting an after-the-fact variance and permit. We had some work done, and we moved some stairs from our deck to the side of our deck. We had no idea that we were on the side setback until our neighbors brought our attention to it. When we were here last time, we couldn't seem to get an agreement with our neighbors, but we believe we have reached an agreement that we are both happy with. Would you like to?
Oh, sure, yes.
Okay.
You've got a 10-minute period. You can tell us whatever you want to tell us.
Okay, so with our neighbors, we have agreed to compensate them if they want to plant 3 of those arborvitae trees right where the arrow is pointing. And they would do it, and we would compensate them for it. And then they also requested that where that arrow is pointing to, the line is on their side of the yard and the little arrow's on our side. They want us to just backfill that land and put some sort of retaining structure for erosion purposes. And we have agreed to do that as well.
Very good.
Okay.
What else would you like to tell us?
I think that's all. So hopefully, this is all, of course, pending approval for the variance and a permit.
Okay, just for those that are home and don't understand what we did last month, these folks gave a presentation. They inadvertently hired a contractor who didn't get a permit. That's how we ended up here. And their neighbors objected to the stairway as it went. So we held this case for a month, and obviously, or hopefully, you've all come to an agreement. Anything else you'd like to tell us?
I think that's all.
Fred, I know I'm going to give it over to you, but let me get the opposition up to, oh, I'm sorry, it's Miss Judy, that's right. If you would have a seat, we'll bring the opposition up, and let's hear from those folks.
Thank you.
All right, ma'am, if you would,
I'm
please.
Andrea Hodgkinson.
Very good.
I'm Karen Schwartz.
And you're the daughter?
Mhm,
Okay. Kind of bring us up to date, as those folks have what's transpired the last month, or are you in agreement?
We're
or
in agreement. They had the arborist come out, they had it evaluated and that type of thing. And so we are in agreement. The only thing is, just the timing of it, 60 days. I think we talked about once the permit and variances are approved to have it done within 30 to 60 days. So that way we can work on some of the erosion issues that we're having. And that was it.
Anything else you'd like to tell us?
I don't think so.
Anybody else wish to speak in opposition? Hearing and not seeing anybody, it's back to this board for discussion. Ms. Judy Williams is your representative, so I'm going to turn it over to Judy.
You can have a seat.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, I think we're all glad when the neighbors work together and then come to an agreement, and this
Right.
is one that they did work together, and I'm glad to see that, and it looks like it's an agreement that everybody can live with. So my motion, first of all, I'm going to ask the applicant, do you have that resolution 1 and 2, if you can give the clerk? The wording in it, she'll need it for the minutes, and instead of me trying to read it, yeah, if you'll just give her 1 and 2, and I'm going to reference that in my motion. Thank you. All right. Then if there are no other comments, I'm ready to make a motion.
I think we're ready for you, Judy.
Okay. I'm going to make a motion that we approve this variance subject to the resolution 1 and 2 as presented. You've presented it to the clerk. That the work will be, let's see, we have to wait 30 days. So 60 days, the work should be completed within 60 days. I think that's what your application, opposition asked for. So with those 3 things that I recommend approval.
Good, I got a motion. Do I have a second? Second, Brian. Any other comments? Not hearing a call for the vote. Fred, hit it. Fred,
Oh, I'm sorry.
there you go. All right, we're all in approval, 5-0. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, and Merry
Thank
Christmas
you.
to both parties. Thank you very much. Have a great day. John, next case.
Variance case V101, Vladimir Badalin requests a variance to number 1, reduce the rear setback from required 35 feet to 5 feet, which is existing. Number 2, allow accessory structures, which are an existing pool and proposed shed to be to the side of the principal building and closer to the street right-of-way line than the principal building. Number 3, reduce the setbacks for an accessory structure over 650 square feet for an approximately 875 square foot shed. Required 100 feet to 5 feet adjacent to the north property line, to 30 feet adjacent to the west property line, and to 96 feet adjacent to the south property line. And number 4, increase the maximum height of a fence from 8 feet to 8 feet in land lot 278 of the 20th District. The property is located on the north and east sides of Stony Acres Drive, west of Frank Kirk Road. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to the variance case of V101? 4. Let the record show there's 4 people here in opposition. All of those wishing to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
All right. And again, for the
Afternoon.
purpose of the record, ma'am, if you would, please give us your name.
Yes, please, Jessa Batlin.
And Vladimir Badlin.
Okay, we heard this case last month. We put it on hold for 30 days. You want to kind of bring us up to date, or you have a 10-minute period to tell us whatever you want to tell us?
Okay, not a problem. So we were, first of all, thank you guys for giving us a continuation and some time to hopefully work it out. We did contact Mr. Belair in hopes to find a resolution with our neighbors, and we presented to the board a few days ago on Monday the same thing that we presented to our neighbors, and we did find out today that they would like to hopefully come to a common agreement without the board having to, or something to present to the board. So if it's okay with the board, we'd like to ask for a little bit more time today, maybe be heard at the end of today's meeting, so that we can have some time to discuss it with them and find out what would be, what they're accepting, what they're still not willing to accept, because we did present quite a few offers above and beyond what the board had presented to make it more appealing.
Okay, all right. Anything else you'd like to tell us?
Thank you.
That's fair enough.
Please and thank you.
That is fair enough. Okay. If, at this time, if you just have a seat, I'd like to hear from the
Certainly.
opposition.
Good afternoon. My name is Colin Belair. Mr. Boulogne started the process of trying to help us resolve this. Ms. Batlin contacted me earlier this week. She made a few proposals. I think that we're going to be able to hammer something out. I don't think that that's going to happen today, but we were hoping if maybe we could get on for next month or whenever, whenever the next, I don't know if there's one next month, but the next meeting, I'm hopeful that we can come to a resolution, and hopefully that'll appease the board.
Okay, at this time, is there anybody else wishing to speak in opposition to say anything at this time? Okay, I have one person.
I'll try to make this just real
Just
quick.
give me your name, please.
Name
first.
is Hayward Kite.
Mr. Kite, go right ahead.
Yes, and I'm a little bit confused because when we left this meeting last month, there was an indication there would be mediation. We never heard anything about that. Last night was the first I heard of any of the discussions that had been going on. I'm a firm believer in mediation. I think that's very good. You have someone there that is professional and brings the parties together. Right now, it seems that there's some back and forth. Some of the things that I did see last night, there's a good bit of issue about. For instance, putting shrubbery in front of the fence.
Yeah,
It's already a bad sight line there at that corner. I don't know if transportation can put some stop signs, but I don't want to create more problems than what we've already got. That's it.
thank you, sir. Anybody else at this time want to talk in opposition to this particular case? Hearing and not seeing anybody, it's back to this board for discussion. Mr. Fred Boulogne represents the district, so Fred, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank everyone who spoke here today, and I appreciate your working together with each other. I used an inartful term last month. I used the word mediation. That can have certain connotations in the law. I'm not a trained mediator, but I did reach out to Mr. Belair and have had conversation and communication with him, as well as one other neighbor, and I have been in communication with the Badlands, mostly by email. And I really appreciate them working together to try to create a situation where the appearance of the structure moves from something that's kind of commercial to something that's more in keeping with the residential character of the neighborhood. And I'm quite happy to move forward with a motion to give you folks some more time to work that out, consistent with some of the guidelines that I put out last time, so that this ends up looking like a residential structure. With that, I'll make a motion to continue this to the January calendar to let the neighbors work together.
I've got a motion, I've got a second, and that would,
They like the word hold rather than continuance. My apologies. Please reflect that it's a hold till January.
John, we legally right? Okay, we're on hold, and we've got a motion, we've got a second. And that includes all parties to come involved to be in this communication. Any other comments? Not hearing, seeing, or let's vote on it. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to approve the hold for 30 days until our next scheduled meeting, which will be in January. So that's our motion, and it's a 5-0 vote. Thank you for your attention to this detail. All right, John, let's go to 110 now. Thank you.
Variance case V110, Yassine Saho requests a variance to reduce the front setback from required 25 feet to 23 feet, which is existing. Number 2, reduce the rear setback from required 40 feet to 26 feet, which is existing. Number 3, reduce the minimum distance between buildings from required 15 feet to 11 feet, which is existing, adjacent to the eastern property line. And number 4, reduce the required setbacks for an accessory structure over 144 square feet for an existing approximately 176 square foot shed from required 5 feet to 1 foot adjacent to the eastern property line, if required 40 feet to 2 feet adjacent to the northern property line in land lot 16 of the 20th District. The property is located on the north side of Wilkie Way, at the northern terminus of Amber Way. The applicant is present. Earlier, there were 2 people here opposed. All those wish to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you would, please give me your name, please, ma'am,
Good afternoon, Yasin Saha.
and your name.
My name is Giaz Ugolini.
Okay, tell us what you want.
I had to extend my property so that I can accommodate my mom to come and stay with us. So I don't have to take her to the nursing home. And I see some of my neighbors are here to oppose it. But one thing that I would like to mention, all my neighbors next door, they're all supported and signed, which I have it. And one of my neighbor, Mr. Chris, his own neighbor next door to him signed. And I did have a little personal rift with him, but I don't mind to hear what he has to say because I think it's a personal thing why they are here.
All right, tell us the neighbors. Look at the picture on the screen. Tell me the neighbors who signed that they're okay with it.
Next door, on the left-hand side,
See where the arrow's pointing?
yes,
Okay, is that the house you're talking about?
correct.
And they signed?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And next door, to the
That-
left,
Where
they
the arrow's
signed.
pointing, they signed,
And
okay.
also Chris' house next door to him signed.
Well, where is that?
Actually, his house is way far from my house.
Way far, okay.
And my next neighbor too, his house is way far from my
Okay.
house.
Now, tell us what you want, ma'am. You've told us your problems. Tell us what you're asking for us to
I'm
do.
just asking for a variance to get everything rectified in the zoning book so that everything will be correct. I'm not here to piss nobody, like, make anybody upset. Sorry, excuse, I had to choose my words wisely. I'm not here to upset no one.
Okay.
I'm just here to get it right.
All right, well, we're going to deal with the facts. So in dealing with the facts, tell me anything else you want to tell me about the property, the width, the length, the height, anything else you got to tell us?
I will let him talk.
Yeah,
Can you be specific?
Judy, let's do the process. Okay, sir, if you want him to talk, he's allowed to talk.
Yeah, but can you rectify what exactly do you want me to answer? I'm lost, I'm kind of nervous.
You got to
This
talk
is
to me
new.
now, okay?
Okay.
Is there anything else you want to tell us about the zoning, the stipulations? Is he a contractor or is he a friend?
Actually, he's my husband.
Okay. Sir, would you like to say something? You're welcome to speak.
Yeah, sure. Whatever we have over there on the property,
Okay,
we had the permit and everything for it, and all the permit was approved. We have all the stamps. Just on the last time, the last inspection for the CO, they asked us to review the property line, and then they recommended.
We noticed that.
Then they recommended us to get a variance, so
Variance.
that's why we are here.
okay, that helps clear it up. Anything else you'd like to tell us?
Thank you, and Merry Christmas. That's it.
All right, we're not finished yet, so is there anything else you want to tell us at all?
Nothing really.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, if you would, have a seat, and at this
Thank
time,
you.
we'll hear from the opposition.
Hello, I'm Chris Webster.
Okay, Mr. Webster, tell us what you want to tell us.
Right, so the property's already overgrown. They've outgrown the property, and requesting the variance to put more things on the property doesn't make any sense at all. I'm concerned about the property values, my property values, when you have comps in real estate. If the neighbors' houses and their house doesn't sell in whatever time frame that would be, then it's going to also reduce, sell for the asking price is going to also reduce my property values. And that's my biggest concern.
All right, do you, looking at the picture, can you tell us, do you live that close by? Is your house on that?
My
picture?
house isn't on there. Whoa, it just went away.
There you
There we
go.
go. So if you're going to go down 2 houses, that's me on the left side, right there.
Right there.
Right
Okay,
there.
that's you. Okay, when you say they're overgrown or they've outgrown it, can you give us any more specifics of that or anything else? You want
Right, so the front yard, I can't see the rear, of course, of the property.
Okay.
So the front yard certainly is overgrown and already putting more stuff in the rear of the property for storage, which has already been done, if I understand correctly. Isn't that right? But not only has it already been done, but they're requesting more?
All right, just, again, talk to me and talk just
I'm
anything else
asking.
you want to tell us.
I'm asking, are they requesting?
This is not an answer and question period. It's
Okay,
time
no
for you
problem.
to just give us your input. That's all we were looking
Sure.
for.
Okay, yeah, so that's my input, is that it's, I think they've outgrown the property, and putting more things on there is not gonna be beneficial to property values.
Anything else you'd like to tell us?
I don't think so, no.
Is there anybody else wishing to speak in opposition to case V110? Hearing and not, all right, sir, are you sworn in? Come right up. We've got 6 minutes left. Give us your name, please.
Yes, it's Mike Swab.
Okay, go ahead.
I live a couple doors down, and my concern is, along with Chris's, the front yard is completely filled with ornaments, shrubs, and all kinds of stuff. And the additional structure, it does seem like they're outgrowing the property. And this area is zoned as a single-family only dwellings. And what it sounds like to me is this is now going to be a multifamily dwelling. And I'm also a little curious how they got permits or how this process worked, getting a permit, not checking setbacks. That seems to me that should have been done in the first place. And the property value reduction is a big concern, because we have enough homes in the neighborhood now that are in bad repair, and it's pulling down the property values. And if somebody looking to buy a home drives through and sees an additional structure that is basically a living structure, now duplex for lack of a better term, that's going to really depress our property values. And those are my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else wishing to speak in opposition to case V110? Hearing and not seeing anybody, it's back to this board for discussion. Mrs. Williams, Ms. Williams represents the district, so at this time, Judy, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This variance, when I went out to look at it, everything's existing. They're not proposing to add anything additional. John, was this turned in a way of a complaint, or, I know they had a building permit, but,
Well, this started off as a building permit for a basement finish only. And then we went out there and discovered they had added on an entire addition to the house
oh, okay. So they did get a building permit,
for a basement finish only.
and then they extended that permit without permission.
Correct.
So, but they're not intending everything that's there is going to remain. They're not wanting to add
No,
anything
there's
additional.
no further additions planned. as
And this
far
is
as
an
I know.
RA4 lot, which is smaller than your average anyway, so.
Correct.
All right, I'm gonna have the applicant, if you would, please come back up. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Yeah, just come back. Okay, either one of you, it doesn't matter. When you got your building permit to finish off your basement,
Yes.
how did it come about that you added an addition?
What had happened was, when we got the permit to finish the basement, there was a couple of footage that was added. And when I spoke with the people at the building permit area, they told me I had to go back in there to get a permit for concrete foundation. That's the only part that I'm missing, because that part, they already inspected it. There was nothing added on top of that. The only thing we did, we poured the concrete for the foundation without not getting the foundation for the permit.
Okay. That's pretty much what
Yes,
I was told.
that was the
Okay.
confusion.
But you have no intention of adding anything
Oh,
else?
no, nothing. And let me address something to my neighbors. I'm not, like I said, they will bow to that. I always fix my property. You can go and look at my property. Those scrubs are 120. They're flowers. I needed a shed. I keep it very nice. And that will upgrade our value of our property. And if they wanted to do it, I will not have no problem.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, if you have a seat. Now I'm going to ask the opposition to come back up here. Yes, sir. You can come on up. Okay. First of all, let me ask you this question. You don't live adjacent to them, and the
No.
adjacent property owners signed off that they didn't have a problem with it. The adjacent property owners signed off that they didn't have a problem with it. The adjacent.
Okay, I wasn't aware that there was
They're required, they sent out their petition, and everybody around them signed off that they didn't have a problem with it.
okay,
They're not proposing to add anything. They've got exactly what they have, and they're wanting to bring it into compliance. These are RA4 lots, which by themselves are small lots to begin
They
with. I'm not so sure in looking at it in the neighborhood that this would bring the property values down for anybody, but I'm not a real estate appraiser, so I don't know how it would bring it down. I'm not even sure I understand why you would think that they have outgrown their house. I think that they did a few things wrong. I don't disagree with you. But the alternative is for me to have them tear the house down. I don't think that's the correct solution either. So,
it's not ideal, is it?
no, it isn't. We never want to punish someone for doing something that they didn't think was a big deal. So we're left with what do we do? Do we approve it and bring it into compliance exactly there, and they can never add anything else to it? Is that acceptable to you, or?
Ideally, no, but the alternative of tearing it down that's not reasonable either.
So you see where I'm phased. Either I can approve it as it's presented today, or I could have them tear down the addition, which doesn't seem to me like that would be the right way either. So we are sort of stuck here. And you don't have any alternatives. And the other problem I have is the neighbors adjacent to them don't really have a problem with it.
Well, then they're foolish, but that's them.
That's them. And you know, for whatever reason, they don't have a problem with it. So, thank you. If you just have a seat, then I'll try to come up with a recommendation here. I don't think that this is going to cause any kind of a decrease in value for the property. I think that we would have a different outcome if the property owners adjacent to it had a problem with it. Based on that, I don't know how we could correct. I have two options: tear it down or approve it as presented. So my option at this time is to make a motion that we approve this application for the existing structures only, with no further additions or accessory structures to be added to the property. And that would be my motion.
All right, I've got a motion. Do I have a second?
Mr. Chairman, I'll provide a second for discussion.
All right, for discussion, go right ahead.
I'd actually rather hear from the realtor than provide any comments, but I don't have any affirmative comments other than noting there's a lot of roof line and just making sure that whatever's placed in that front yard will aid in preventing water runoff. That's it.
Okay, other questions or comments? John, do we have any complaints on the property?
I don't show any code enforcement complaints, Mr. Chairman. You know, the only thing I see is from development inspections where they were cited for building without a permit when they added the addition.
Okay. Seems to be a lot of stuff in the front yard. I'm just kind of curious about that, if there was any. And I think one of the opposition folks mentioned that there was a lot of, and I'm looking at the picture here, seems to be a lot of art, maybe art.
Bird bass and probably things
Bird
like that.
bass and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Is there too many, too little? I don't know. All right, that was just a question. No, and your answer is no, there's no code.
No,
Code
not for
enforcement.
yard art.
All right, fella.
Yeah, mine's just a real quick question. I'm looking at the
picture here, and the way the outline is drawn, the highlighted line on the right seems to cross over this house. Is that not an accurate lot line?
No, when it comes to GIS, it's usually off.
Okay,
a few feet.
I just was kind of curious. Okay, thanks.
Lloyd, Ms. Sheffield?
My follow-up question is for either gentleman that's in opposition. If you can come up.
What? Both of you come on up.
I just need a little bit more clarification on what you mean by outgrown the property.
Well, if you look at the front yard, that's actually fairly thin compared to what it is now. There's a lot of stuff in the front yard. If you look at your drawing, right where that van is, that center roof line is the original structure. So this has been added on. And, you know, you've got multiple trailer, you got a trailer that's always parked up there, multiple vehicles. And the concern is, okay, 5 years down the road, is this going to become a multiple family dwelling? Is the other question I have. And how do we prevent that? And that's a concern, because now you have a multifamily dwelling in a single family dwelling neighborhood. That's going to definitely depress our property values.
Okay. So you're not referencing necessarily the number of people that live at the property?
No, my understanding is as long as it's family, you can have your immediate family living
Okay.
in a home.
So
That I
you're
don't
you're
have a problem
primarily
with.
concerned with the stuff that's on the property
The
when you
stuff
say
and-
outgrown?
Correct. Just the amount of stuff, how large the structure is, how crowded it looks now with the additions, the shed. And then let's say X number of years from now, this place is sold, or they sublet it to somebody else. Now you have a multifamily dwelling. How do you prevent that? And what if this does depress our property values? How do we recoup that?
Okay, thank you. That was all that I had, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else while these gentlemen are up there? Any other questions for these gentlemen?
And so, also, when you build up to the fence, without a permit, especially, when you build up to the fence, how can that not reduce the property value? I wouldn't want to live next to that and see one, I don't know how far away that is from the fence, because I don't go onto their property, but I think it's right up against the property line, I think, isn't it?
No. It's 2 feet.
It's real close.
It's really close.
It's close, but the good news is you don't live next door, and the next door neighbors
I see it.
don't have a problem, though.
Okay.
You know,
And listen, I think we're all in agreement. There's a lot of house on a small piece of property.
Yes.
And for those of folks that are home in our audience here, let me just point out it's 0.17 acres. I mean, that is tiny, tiny, tiny.
It's an RA4 lot. Look at the house next door. You see it covers just about the whole lot.
Judy, just a recommendation, we could,
Sure.
if we did approve this, we could approve it with the caveat that this to be listed as a single-family home, period.
It is a single-family home. All they have is a relative, the mother is living with them. It is.
But I
Let me
think
have you have a
their
seat, and I'll have
future-
them come back up and explain. If the owner would come up here and explain to him who's living in the house. Because you have somebody living with you doesn't make it a duplex.
I have 8 siblings. I'm the youngest. I bought that property when I was 23 years old. I'm the only one that has a house in my family. So unlike a lot of people, I don't want my mom to live in a nursing home. So my house was very small. All I did was add a little stuff, like little spaces, so that my mom and my 2 kids can live. I will not make somebody feel uncomfortable on their property. That's not how I operate. And I follow all the laws, anything, you know, so it kind of upset me that I see my neighbors saying some stuff that's not accurate. It's not correct.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions for these folks while they're there from any other board members? Okay, you can have a seat. Thank you. Judy, it's back to you.
All right, I will add the stipulation that it remain for the comfort of the neighbors, a single-family residential dwelling. And that's what it is. So we have a motion, we have a second.
That's correct, with the caveat that you've added
Single-family
to
residential.
be in the motion. All right, any other questions? Any other comments? I'll call for the vote then. That's a little bit of a tough one. We're going to approve that 5-0 with the caveat that this house is to remain a single-family house forever and ever and ever. All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. John, where am I now?
Variance case V111, William Rayburn Murphy requests a variance to, 1, reduce the side setback required 10 feet to 0 feet adjacent to the eastern property line, and that is existing. Number 2, to reduce the side setback for an accessory structure over 144 square feet for an approximately 200 square foot metal shed required 10 feet to 0 feet adjacent to the southeastern property line, and that is existing. Number 3, reduce the side setback for an accessory structure over 144 square feet for an approximately 224 square foot block shed required 10 feet to 0 feet adjacent to the southeastern property line, and that is existing. Number 4, reduce the setback for an accessory structure over 144 square feet for an approximately 400 square foot awning from required 10 feet to 0 feet adjacent to the southern property line and from required 35 feet to 31 feet from the rear, and that condition is also existing. Number 5, reduce the rear setback for an accessory structure under 144 square feet for approximately 100 square foot shed from required 5 feet to 0 feet from the rear property line, and that is existing. Number 6, reduce the setbacks for an accessory structure over 650 square feet for an approximately 1,200 square foot building required 100 feet to 6 feet adjacent to the northwestern property line, to 17 feet adjacent to the southeastern property line, and to 30 feet adjacent to the rear, and those are existing conditions. And number 7, allow maneuvering and/or parking on a non-hard treated surface, which is gravel, in land lot 298 of the 17th district. The property is located on the south side of Linda Circle, west of Pine Street. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V111? Let the record show there's no opposed.
Okay, for the purpose of the record, if you would, please give us your name.
My name is Ray Murphy, William Rayburn Murphy. This is my daughter, Vicky.
Okay, Vicki, would you speak up and tell us who you are?
My name is Vicky Murphy Norris.
Okay, tell us what you want, folks.
Okay, we are asking for a variance in regards to a building that was placed on the property, adjoining all of the pieces of property that my dad owns. The said building was erected before my dad knew it was actually going to be completed. It was about halfway erected before he knew that it was going to be a storage building. In regards to not having the variance, we stand the chance of losing all the tenants surrounding the area in regards to the storage building and having access to the storage building.
Let me stop you right there. If you look at the picture up there, tell us what building you're talking about. And the little arrow,
Which one
see
is
the
it?
arrow?
It's
or
a
the
small
arrow?
building. We had a brand new survey.
On the side there, on this side.
Come on back a little.
We had a new survey.
That's all right. Let's get it on the.
It's a little bitty building right beside Joyner Avenue, which I own all, Joyner Avenue,
Here we go.
all that.
Here's the new survey.
No, wait a minute. I still want. I want to.
There we go.
Go back. I'm sorry.
Tell you what. Give me the picture back up there. Let's do it with the picture.
Okay.
All right. Let's move the arrow around. You see that building? Go towards the back. Go on back the other way. There you go. Right back there. See where? Come on down a little bit. Down. Right there. That building. Is that the building?
No, it's on further back this way, I think.
Which way, back to me or you?
Back toward this end. toward,
Yes, that's the
toward
house.
Joyner Avenue.
That's the house as we come towards,
All right,
it's
are we
not
going
that,
the right way with the arrow?
Yeah.
yes, it's the next building over to that one.
That one right there, is that
Yes,
the
sir.
building? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Very good. Now we all know what building you're talking about. Go
Okay.
right ahead, ma'am.
I believe that's
Okay.
it.
In regards to a variance and requesting an approval for that, it would create a tremendous hardship in regards to bringing that building down financially and utilization of the storage building for the surrounding properties and for our own personal use.
And could I speak I own all the properties surrounding this little building, up front, all the way from, Limited Circle, all the way back to Joyner Avenue at South Cobb Drive, and then all the way up the, Joyner Avenue, and down to, that other street. Now, I own them all. I don't mean to be bragging about that, but, I mean, I'd be the one that would have to complain if anybody was complaining about the little building, and I wouldn't complain about myself. So I own all that property, about
And
4
that-
acres.
And that's,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, that's another reason that we're trying to have you consider to waive all setbacks in regards to the building being on the middle of a lot of those different pieces of property. It's on one piece of property located there on an address, but it also borders other pieces of property as far as
Right at
adjoining.
Right at 3 acres, sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, you tell us, you gotta keep telling us what you want. When was the building built? How old is it? How big is it?
And how big?
How old is it? When did you build it?
Oh, the building, it is, about 2 years, 3 years old.
Okay. Well, tell us, you got time, tell us.
What we're utilizing it for?
What else you want to know?
We'd
Okay.
like the variance in regards to keeping the building there. Taking that building down now after the fact would be absolutely, I don't know how to explain it. It would be very, very expensive, and it would be actually very upsetting for, I guess, the homeowners that are around the area. They do utilize that building for storage and such,
Okay.
for their own personal usage.
All right, anything else you'd like to tell us?
We just appreciate you considering the variance approval for us.
Okay, all right. Anybody else wish to speak either in favor of case V111 or objecting to case V111? Hearing and not seeing anybody, it's back to this board for discussion. Again, Ms. Williams represents that district, so I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Judy Williams.
That would be me. Hey, we've talked on the telephone.
Yes, ma'am.
I've talked to your dad. Hey, how are you? I'm Judy.
Oh, Judy, yeah, I remember talking with you.
Okay.
You and I both had the same problem with our hearts.
That's right, that's right. We don't
I
have
had a
one apparently.
Quadruple bypass. That's the reason I'm slow about getting up here. You made it longer than I think I might.
Well, thank you. There was some questions that were raised. I know when we talked, you told me that you own the adjacent properties.
Yes, all of them, please. I'm sorry, all of them around it.
And the piece of property where the power line easement, do you own
Yes.
that piece of property too?
Well, we have a letter from the power company that all that is, that's been approved
have
and
it.
okayed, that down through that. It goes through the power line goes through some of my property, but we have a letter stating from the power company that it's okay as we have it now.
I have an encroachment letter.
And then
You have an
that was
encroachment letter,
approved in a
okay.
new,
We got that.
survey.
We
From-
worked with the power company for maybe 3 weeks getting all that done.
Well, the problem, well, there's a lot of problems, but the big problem is, not so much the storage shed, because when I went down there, you can't hardly see the storage shed for the other stuff. Who lives in the house? It's a rental house, is that the understanding?
Yes.
And he's the person who built the building.
No, the car lot built the building.
The car lot built the building.
At the building, yeah. They, at the car lot's on the end, and they the one built the building, which is over on the other piece of property right beside the car lot.
Okay, so the car lot built the building, but the
Yeah.
people who live in the house are using the building?
Say it again, I'm sorry.
The people who live in the house are using the building?
Yes, they're using it for some storage. I'm using it for some storage myself also.
Okay. All right. Well, John, this is a mess.
It is, whoa.
I think one of the things is, I really don't have a problem with the building itself, it's the other variances that's in question, because it appears that some of them are over the property line. And I'm wondering if we should probably have a survey that puts all your property together.
We have that.
Not with all the properties.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
We had it. Where's that folder? We've got a copy of everything all together.
Okay.
Where's that folder?
And Commissioner Williams, what I understood is what the Georgia Power line easement
That's not it. The one
is the
that-
power line,
Excuse me.
Georgia Power issued them an encroachment letter for the things that they have in the power line easement. And Georgia Power actually does own that lot next door,
Okay,
so.
but they have
That's not it.
but I couldn't give them a variance anyway, because I can't approve anything over the property line.
We're just gonna consider what's on lot number 5, which is
On
the.
5. So we know then that we're looking at, the power line easement has approved everything that we're seeing, so that's not a problem.
Yeah.
The other problem is approving what's inside the property line,
Yeah, and this board can only approve
what's in it, not
for
what's over it.
residential uses. They can't approve a use that's being used by a commercial car lot.
Correct. So that's another problem
Oh, say, I'm
that
sorry.
I can take care of that.
Okay.
All right.
I didn't-
All right, so you've got the overall, all right, let me explain something to you on the power line easement. We can't grant you a variance that has any building over a property line,
We understand that.
and you understand that. All right, we also can't give you a variance for that building as long as your used car lot, which is a commercial structure, is having use on a residential piece of property. So the people who live in the house, which is residential, can use it, but the people who own the car lot can't use it.
Correct.
So you understand that?
Oh,
Yes, we
yes,
do.
ma'am.
Oh, okay. All right.
Oh.
Then I'm going to open it up to the board for any other discussion, but I do think I have a solution. And the solution would be probably to approve the items inside of the property line. I cannot approve anything over the property line. And that the accessory structure be used for the rental house only, no
Yeah.
commercial use of
Yes.
it.
Correct.
And that would be my motion. I don't know, I mean, this is,
That's, I'm confused.
I'm not confused. I mean, I know exactly
I'm way
what's happened. I'm not
They-
confused
exactly.
Yes, I
because
do.
we're never going to get this mess straightened out because a lot of it's grandfathered.
No. A lot of it's not grandfathered.
On the side where all that
You
stuff
don't have
is.
one. I
No,
have-
that was all built in the last 4 or 5 years.
No, I'm talking about over the property line.
Yeah, the part of the house that's over the property line is taken care of with the Georgia Power letter.
Okay.
I'm not worried about that. I'm
So
worried
the only
about-
thing that I'm going to be doing is the inside of the property line,
That's right,
correct?
that's right. So it's gonna be 0 feet on that property line.
And that's, we could hold it and have them clean it up, but I don't know, what do you clean up?
We've got, if you don't mind me interrupting you, we have a letter from the Georgia Power lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're okay with
We're
that.
okay with that.
We're all
That's-
okay with that.
That's
Okay,
fine.
I'm sorry.
That's
What is-
okay.
Sorry. What is over the property line?
Your
Which
house,
area is over the property line?
probably the structures in the back are over the property line, and it looks
And
like
the structure is at the
the
front.
house is over the
Even
property
that little
line.
house, even that little building we're talking about is questionable, Judy.
Yeah.
Have you all consulted, have you all consulted an attorney?
Well, I have, yes.
Yeah.
I talk to one periodically all the time about it, yeah. In
Okay.
fact, he's supposed to be here today, but he got tied up in Fulton County.
Okay.
Yeah, I've spoken to
Brian,
him.
legally, I'm not sure, I'm totally confused. I just don't know legally what we could do without some Judy talks about grandfathering, and we talked a little bit about grandfathering. Now John says they're not grandfathered, so,
Well, I'm talking about the area down there, not this
Oh,
in
the area,
there.
okay.
The area down there, where all the cars and,
Brian,
There's
are we
nothing
legally
confined.
okay on this? Do you have an opinion?
I think there are some questions here.
A lot of
that-
questions,
that-
yeah.
That need to be addressed. If it's a true zoning issue, that needs to be addressed. As a rezoning, I mean, if it's commercial uses on an
A residential
R20
property.
lot, I mean, that is something that would need to be addressed. And
Yeah.
I don't think variances alone will correct
no, they
the
won't.
issues here.
The only variance that would correct it would be, I can approve the variance inside the property line. There's still the issue of all those cars that, who owns all those cars? The used car lot?
The used car lot, yeah, I have that rented out, the used car lot, it's been there since, 1979.
Okay. Well, the cars that are parked on there would have to be removed.
Well, I've got 3 on there, that's myself, that's on that property you're talking about. And I'm getting ready to move those myself, I already knew that, I got 3 cars there to move, and the others that goes with the 1679 Joyner Avenue, it's like it's been there since before 79, when Murph's opened. That opened in 79, and the car lot was there before that, so say been there since 1978.
All right, I think that I'm gonna do a substitute motion, and I'm gonna recommend that we hold this for 30 days, and that all the commercial structures or the commercial uses be removed from this piece of property during that 30-day hold.
What now?
We need to move all of the vehicles off of that residential property.
Oh, well, leave the 3 on it, that ain't no problem.
All of it to be cleaned.
Mhm.
Okay, and that the residential, it be used for residential uses only. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
so that would be my motion. We hold it for 30 days, they to clean the lot up and bring it back to us in the 30 days. And John, you want to add something?
Along with cleaning it up, can we also put a condition in there that they call code enforcement to verify it's cleaned up a week prior to your next hearing?
Yes, if you could call code enforcement a week before the public hearing in January
Okay.
to let them know that it has been cleaned up.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So we add that to the motion.
All right, so that would be my motion.
All right, got a motion, do I have a second for discussion? Got a second, okay. Listen, we're really here trying to help you.
Sure. We
There's
understand.
so much confusion, and you've got it here and there and all over the place. I can't tell you what to do, but I do think this is, what we're doing is the best thing that we can for you right now. In that month's period, if I were you, I'd get some attorneys to look at this. Make sure that you've got, because you're only going to get one shot to do it, and we want to do it the right way. But I do think you're going to need some help. Remember this, zoning started in Cobb County in 1971,
72.
72. So anything prior to that was grandfathered. Anything over that is not grandfathered. So I want to kind of make that clear to you. And I think the 30-day period, is going to be really beneficial to help you out on that, so.
Okay.
Any other comments from board members?
So in other words, excuse me, those 3 cars, you've been down there, haven't you?
Yeah.
Judy? Those 3 cars that I'm talking about are on that property over that residential property on the sides, the van and 2 other cars. I move those and I'll be in compliance.
Yeah, before the 30 days is up, I'll meet with you or your
Oh.
daughter down there,
That'll be all right.
and we'll go over everything.
Yeah, that'll be okay. I may not be able to do it, but she can.
She can, I'll meet her down there.
You know, the
And
little,
with somebody from code enforcement, I'll coordinate that too.
and the little things that I'm bringing up, if you look at the survey, that little building that we're talking about is right on the line. And part of that building may have to come down on that line, on the survey. Do you follow what I'm saying? That little building is right on the property line, and it's over the property line. So that's why I'm saying some legal advice would go a long way in really helping you.
I'll
All
take
right.
Brian down there with us.
All right, got a motion, got a second. We've had a lot of discussion.
Do you mind showing me The property
Well, you
line
just
on
look at
this
it.
new
Just-
survey.
If you look at, the little building that we're talking about is this little building right here, is that correct?
She'll go up there and show him.
No, we can't do
put,
that.
Tim, is Tim out there? Tim, put the plat back up there.
Or Cornelius,
I can't tell where.
Wait just a minute.
I can't tell on that what is myself, but it's,
well,
it's
I'm only
right
looking
here.
at the survey. The survey is what shows it.
We
It's not,
got
it's not on the
survey here that
picture.
I can read and see, but I can't see.
Well,
that
it's not,
to
it's
pick
not
that
on the
building
picture, it's
out,
on the
but I've
survey.
got it here.
Cornelius, can we put the survey up?
Yeah, we've got
I'm
it here.
just confused on which line might be.
Corky,
the-
will you put this survey up for him?
I can tell where it is on the back, but I can't tell.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
You see the little building? See the little tiny building that we're talking about?
Yeah,
You see how it's broken?
way back here on this end.
Here, I tell you what, he's gonna give you a pointer, let you point at it.
I have a motion and a second to hold.
It's a little bit on this end up there next to, next to this back. I'm sorry having to go through this much stuff.
Point at the little building, honey.
Right up there, right. You
That's
get
it,
that
that's
right
it. Now you
up
see,
there.
okay,
Come
now,
on up.
you see where it's over the line?
Other further, little further.
See where it's over the line?
No, it's not over the line.
That's a power line easement, Rory.
Yeah, we have the easement on power, I'm sorry.
It's not the property line, it's a power line easement.
Okay, that's why I'm saying we need, get an attorney, because that's a property line easement, it's a power line easement, I don't know what the hell easement it is. Okay,
Assuming,
all I'm saying is you got 30 days, and we'd like to get you back in here to get it straightened out once and for all.
I don't see no problem, I don't see no problem with that. So we got 3 cars, I gotta move.
All right, I've got everybody telling me what to do up here. I've got a motion, I've got a second. Any other comments? Not hearing any, I'll call for the vote. There you go. Folks, you got 30 days to come back and see us after the holidays. How's that?
That's great.
And it's a 5-0 vote.
We can do it,
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
I'll talk to you.
Yeah.
I'll give you a call and set up a meeting.
that'll be fine.
All
Thank
right.
you.
And I'll meet you out there if you want to.
Okay,
So
that'll be
those
fine.
cars are gone, I've just
Yeah,
got.
bring her a cup of coffee and a cake.
No,
You'll be
thank
okay. There you go.
We
Yeah.
can do it for Christmas.
There you go. Have a cigarette too.
All right, thank you.
All right, John, where am I?
Yes, sir. Variance case V-112, Patricia Alongi Snyder requests a variance to reduce the side setback for an accessory structure over 144 square feet for an approximately 234 square foot wood building, required 12 feet to 0 feet adjacent to the southern property line, which is existing in land lot 231 of the 20th district. The property is located on the east side of Mars Hill Road, north of Edenfield Drive. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V-112? All right, let the record show there's no one opposed. Would the applicant please come forward to be sworn in?
All right, young lady, if you would, please give us your name, please.
My name is Patricia Alongi Snyder,
Okay, ma'am, tell us what
and I owned that property with my late husband, Warren Snyder, and he's still on there. I received a violation that my shed wasn't within the setback of the county in 2015, and my husband was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and he was trying to deal with the neighbor with it, and I just decided to move the shed. I was told it was 2.2 feet over their line. I had the shed moved 7 feet. Let the code enforcer know. This is in 2015. And I did not hear anything back until recently that the neighbor is complaining that I'm not within the 12-foot setback. So this is where I am.
All right, honey, if you look at the picture, tell us where the shed is. Can you show us where the shed is up there?
The shed is all, keep going, keep going, keep going, over towards the subdivision to your right. You can't really see it because there's trees, but it's,
Yeah, we can see it.
no, you still can't see it. That's one shed. Keep going, and it's in,
There's, yeah.
that is another shed.
Okay,
That is a playhouse. It's like right where you're at. Right in there.
Barely see it. That's real to the right of that. Keep going. Shows it over the line. To the right of it.
is it just below
It's
the
right-
line?
It's right where you, I mean, it's right in that area. Yep, right there.
Okay. All right. So you haven't moved them, they're all, that's where they are?
I moved it back in 2015.
Which one, ma'am?
The one that the neighbor was complaining about that was on his
Is it
property
that one
line.
that I'm looking at?
It's the one that you're looking at.
Okay, so that's moved, so that's.
So I moved it.
Okay,
And let the county know, I let the code enforcer know, and I did not hear anything back.
Okay.
And I assumed it was taken care of, and then I get a complaint this year in June that it's not within the 12-foot setback.
now, am I looking at that shed now, where the
Yes,
head
you are.
is?
That is,
Is that your shed?
that is.
And that's on the property line,
Mm-hmm.
close to it, okay. Can you move that shed?
I moved it once, and it's, has electricity and everything else in there. It would be a hardship.
Okay,
I am a single parent now.
okay. So you're 12 foot, is that, it needs to be moved 12 foot, is that what, is that correct?
That's what the, yes, the setback requirement is, unless I get a variance.
Anything else to tell us? You got,
I maintain the property, and it's not an eyesore. None of the neighbors are complaining except for that one, and we do have water issues, so that's another thing, and I have an undisturbed land behind that shed, so there really is no place to move that shed. That right there is undisturbed land. I cannot touch it. And on the side of the shed between the neighbor's fence and my fence is the subdivision water drainage area. So when it rains, it's, I mean, there's an erosion problem going on there. So there's really, but I don't have anything else to say other than I would just like to leave it where it is.
okay. All right, thank you very much. Is there anybody else wishing to speak either in favor of the zone application V112 or against the zone application V112? Hearing and not seeing anybody, it's back to this board for discussion. Mr. Fred Beloin represents the district, so I'm going to turn it over to Fred.
Thank you. Welcome to District 1. We're well on our way to being the new capital of the free world in terms of man caves, she sheds, and car barns. I think this is one of those three. We're doing our best. I've received emails complaining about this matter from several neighbors, including a Mr. Martin Head, who, among his other claims, and I'll ask you to comment on this, ma'am, is one of his claims is that a portion of your fence actually goes over the property line. Do you have a position on that at all?
I do. I'm not sure why we would be discussing that here, because code enforcement told me that is a civil suit. And that is not the issue, so I'm really not sure why that's being brought up.
But you do believe you have a part of the fence over the property line?
Again, that is a civil suit.
Okay.
Am I not, is that not a civil? I mean, here I am talking variance for property, not,
You're here, ma'am, asking for us to grant you a remedy which creates a variance to a setback when neighbors have filed written objections to the request. So it's a matter of concern to me that
Okay.
somebody uses their neighbor's property as their own or
okay,
appropriates it,
so
yes.
that fence has been there for 18 years.
Okay,
That house has been sold 4 times. It has never, ever been an issue. I don't understand why it's an issue. It has been there 18 years.
It was just a question, ma'am, that's all. We're just looking for a response, and you gave us a response.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay, and my other thought on the whole thing is, in terms of property going down to a 0 lot line, and I'm sorry, I wasn't involved 4 years ago when you had your situation, when whatever happened, happened, and you moved the shed a first time. I generally don't like variances going right to the lot line for a couple of very simple reasons, and that is that buildings need to be maintained, and buildings need to occasionally be painted, and it's really hard to maintain or paint something that goes right to a lot line without walking on your neighbor's property. So I feel like all we're doing by going to 0 lot lines, especially when we're talking about 1 acre lots, is encouraging or creating a potential for disputes among neighbors, which is something I'm trying to avoid and get past. So given the fact that I've received emails indicating somebody was detained today and didn't make it, who intended to be here to object and who has filed written objections, my motion is going to be to hold this for a month rather than act on this today.
Because somebody that was supposed to show up didn't show up.
Somebody has filed written objections and raised questions that cause me concern, yes.
All right, any other comment? You want to make that a motion, or what?
That is my motion, yes, that this be, having heard this, that we hold this to next month.
All right, I've got a motion to hold. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, discussion period. Anybody have a comment? Judy, Ms. Williams?
I think I really have a problem of hope, and you probably have other reasons, and I don't think you stated it. I have a problem of holding an application just because an applicant who a neighbor opposed you didn't show up for the public hearing. I have a problem with that. The public hearing is advertised. It's 1 o'clock today. But you probably have other reasons, I'm sure, that you didn't state. Because I really don't think that's a good reason to hold something because a neighbor didn't show up.
Well, I have stated one reason, which is, generally speaking, I don't want to encourage and don't want to grant any variances to the property line because all that's going to do is encourage disputes among neighbors. One of the reasons stated in one of the writings from a neighbor to me is that if and when he goes to sell, he's going to have to explain the various items that are on or over the property line on a survey. I'm a Rotarian, and we have something called the four-way test in Rotary. And what we talk about in Rotary is that the truth, which you're all sworn to do here, and I believe most folks do, is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And I can't begin to address those issues here today entirely. If I were going to make a motion today, it would be required this be moved off the property line and by about 6 feet or 7 feet, but which happens to be about one segment of the fence back there. But I do want to hear from Mr. Head, who's bothered to contact me by email multiple times, and I have several questions for him as well. One thing you didn't bring out, which I think is to your benefit, I think you told me when I visited with you that the area between your fence and the fence beyond your property in your neighbor's backyard is actually, you believe, a drainage easement,
I
correct?
did say that.
Yeah.
I did say
Okay.
that the side of the property is a storm drainage for that subdivision.
Okay.
Um,
So,
Yeah, but the concerns of getting a clean deed, they filed for a quick deed in 2014 and didn't have a problem. The house has been sold 4 times, so that issue, he told my husband the very same thing, that he was concerned about being able to sell the house, but why wait 4 years to file another complaint? It's, to me, harassment, and it's,
I
I
appreciate
really
that.
feel violated.
Mr. Head, who is he? Can you point out where Mr. Head lives relative to the rest of this? per that map that was up there, can we get the map back, please? That was just here.
I think Tim can put the ones with it, showing the houses, Tim.
There it is.
Can you show us where Mr. Head resides?
He's the one with the fence.
Okay.
Right there.
And how long has he owned that property?
How long has he been on that property?
Yes.
I believe it sold in 2010.
Okay.
Before that, like I said, there's been 4 neighbors there.
And how long has that fence been there in the backyard?
His fence or my fence?
His?
His fence has always been there since, from the original owners. And we bought in 1999.
And just tell me, if you would, a little more about what happened about 4 years ago when you moved this thing the first time. Can you just tell me who from the county you talked to, what the circumstances were?
Yeah, I was dealing with a Joe Pacatello, and he's the one that was working with my husband on this violation. And he provided my husband with a drawing that showed that his shed was 2.29 feet over Mr. Head's property, the corner. So my husband tried to talk with him to see about getting a letter of encroachment, buying the property and all this other stuff, but his health was declining. And we were spending more time in the hospital. And I was getting calls from the code enforcement people telling me I need to do something. So I just had the company come over and move the shed. Had the electrician come over, disconnect everything, moved everything out of the shed while my husband was in the hospital. And I let the county know that I moved the shed, and I heard nothing back until 4 years later.
I really think it's going to help you if we get Mr. Head in here or give him one more chance to appear, because if I were to do something today, it would probably be to require it to go 7 feet back off the property line. That would be my motion if I were having to make a motion to
Mr. Head
determine
didn't
it.
have a problem with me maintaining that property behind on the side of my shed until he filed that complaint 4 years ago. And I just said, you know what? I'm not going to cut the grass anymore. So I took off from work today to be here. So now I'm going to have to do that again?
Possibly, yes. So that would be my motion for today, is that we hold this for 30 days and to give these folks a chance to appear and argue
And how many times will we do
beyond the
that?
terms of the letters, and they'll have to answer questions if they show up. And if they don't, then I'll be more inclined to allow the variances requested. But if I were to make a motion today, it would be to require you to move that back 7 feet off the property line. That would be my motion.
All right, I've got a motion, I've got a second of it, still in discussion stage. Comments?
I got one quick question. I'm just looking back over the application, and what I think I understood you to say, Mrs. Snyder, is that back in 2015, the shed was over the property line by a little over 2 feet,
Yes.
and moved it 7.5 feet or close to it at that point. Is that right? But if it was 2 feet over and we moved it 7 feet, it seems like to me it would be 5 feet from the property line. Why are we talking about it?
That's why I originally went in for a 5 feet variance, but it wasn't.
John, do you know why we would be
It-
talking about it being on the property line if it was moved 7 feet, or it sounds like maybe it wasn't moved 7 feet, I don't know.
It was moved 7 feet.
Okay.
Trust me, you can see the footing and everything. It was moved
All right,
7
John,
feet.
I was gonna say, if it's actually been moved 7 feet, it seems like it's up 5 feet off, does that make a difference? I don't know.
It makes a difference to me.
Yeah.
It should make a difference to you.
It does to me too, but I don't think it's 5 feet off the property line.
Oh, it's not
cer-
off the
it
property
doesn't-
line.
It doesn't appear that way on this drawing either.
John, you want to jump in?
Not really.
Don't blame me.
You can go with Judy, go get a cup of coffee at the car bar.
What is this, a coffee?
All right, go
So-
ahead, John.
So the motion on the floor right now is to hold the case, correct? And who's the second for that? That's Monique. So if you hold it for 30 days, then I'll give us a chance to talk to Mr. Paco and code enforcement to see exactly what happened, because it doesn't sound like it was done correctly. Because it should have been moved the entire 12 feet. to be
I
in
think
compliance
that
with
would be the
code.
reason to hold it then.
That plus to determine precisely if it's on the property line or whether it's a foot or two off, and apparently this other gentleman has a survey, which I would like to see.
Okay.
He has a survey that I had to pay for.
Okay. The truth of the matter is this, we're really trying to help you.
I know that.
And
It's just
and we're kind of
frustrating
stuck.
that,
Yeah, we're kind of stuck. We want to be good to everybody, and I think to give us an opportunity to talk to code enforcement, and if I'm listening to Mr. Fred's comments, he might be more inclined to grant this variance, knowing some other facts that may come out in the future. So I do think the whole would probably help you in the long run. With that said, I've got a motion, I've got a second, I've got no other comments. I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor or to deny, please signify by voting. Ma'am, we're going to approve that motion with a 5-0 vote, and we'll give you 30 days. We'll hold the case for 30 days till our next scheduled meeting.
okay,
All righty?
all right, thank you.
And have a nice Christmas.
You too.
All right, next case, John. Before you and Judy go to South Cobb Drive for your coffee and cigarette.
All right, Murray, cut it out.
Go ahead, John.
Same here.
Same here, okay.
Enough.
Variance case V116, Gloria Ingram requests a variance to number 1, reduce the required setbacks for an accessory structure over 650 square feet for a proposed approximately 1,626 square foot pool house, required 100 feet to 16 feet adjacent to the northern property line and the 49 feet adjacent to the eastern property line. Number 2, reduce the required setback for an accessory structure over 650 square feet for an existing approximately 5,279 square foot metal garage and carport, from required 100 feet to 70 feet adjacent to the southern property line, which is existing, and allow an accessory structure, the existing metal garage, to be to the front and side of the primary structure, in land lot 52 of the 20th District. The property is located on the east side of Baker Road, north of Jacob Bean Road. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V116? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Would the applicant please come forward to be sworn in?
Nice cases today.
Yep, this one's, wait.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, for the purpose of the record, please give us your name.
Gloria Ingram,
Okay, and,
Joe Whitmire.
that's my husband.
okay, folks, go ahead and tell us what you want.
Okay, I have a pool behind my house, and I want to build a pool house beside my pool.
How big, how small? Give us some more information. Have it-
It's
help us.
1,626 square foot pool house. It's just gonna have a little kitchen and a room to have like grandkids' birthdays, parties in and stuff like this.
Okay,
You know, to keep people from going in and out of the house every 5 minutes when they're out there at the pool.
and is it going to be built out of wood, concrete?
It's gonna
Steel.
have the concrete footings. It's gonna be built out of wood with vinyl siding to match the house.
That's the house. Tell us a little bit more. Anything else?
I don't know what to
Okay,
say.
well, it's gonna be built beside
The gazebo.
the gazebo that's in the back of the pool.
Okay,
So it's gonna be behind the fence,
okay.
and you're not gonna see anything from the road, it maybe except for the roof.
I don't see much of anything from the road or anywhere. All our neighbors, 2 of them came up there and said, it looks nice, go ahead, we have no problem whatsoever. And,
They
we got-
signed off
we
on it.
went, I've already been to the health department and got, the okay from them, but I put a whole new septic system in, you know, to accommodate the regular house plus the pool house, and relocated all that for her, and, all the hoops she's asked me to jump through, we have jumped through so far, and we're to this point here now, before we go any
It's
further to get a
because
permit.
my house is, where that is, if you'll see the line and everything, I have 3 acres there. and each one of them, and they asked us to combine all of them.
That's what they asked us to do.
And
combine
that's
the
why we're
lots.
here.
Combine the lots to one big happy lot.
Yeah.
Okay? Anything else you want to tell us? And it's going to be a pool house. You're not going to rent it out to
No.
anybody?
No.
Nobody's
No.
going to live in
No
there?
bedrooms, no,
No
it's just-
kids going to live in there? It's
No.
just for the
No,
pool?
No.
No.
We'll have
Okay.
none of that.
Anything else you want to tell us?
Please let us build our pool house. We've been working this for a year, no kidding, trying to get all this done. With all the stuff we're trying to get done to be able to come to this point.
Okay.
You know, we're about $7,000 in with a new septic system and all this to get to this point.
And now they just want us to combine all 3 acres
Yeah.
together, and
Okay.
that's what we're here for.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, is there anybody here in opposition to case V-116? Anybody here wish to speak in favor of case 116? Hearing and not seeing anybody, it's back to this board for discussion. Fred Beloin, it's your district, so I'm going to turn it over to you, Fred.
Thank you, and I guess we can add pool houses, Mr. Chairman, to the list of man caves, she shed, and car barns, but can somebody go ahead and keep flipping this thing so we can see the bottom third of the property here, the bottom lot? Okay, thank you. Now, can you tell me what the building to the, what appears to be southernmost portion of this is used for?
Okay, that was built back in 91. My husband raced race cars, and that's what it was built for. That's what we keep our race cars in. My husband is my deceased husband then, but my son still races, and that's where he keeps his race cars.
Okay,
But he doesn't live there.
all right. And when I was out here this weekend to look at it, and I met another gentleman this weekend who was very
Yes.
kind to show me around.
He's
Thank you.
gonna help us build it.
Oh, that's your builder, good,
Yeah.
okay. And the problem really isn't the concept of a pool house at all. The problem is you want to do a combined lot in R20 that seems to have a lot of impervious area, seems to have something looking like a commercial structure on it. So that's what we're trying to begin to work through here. This building to the south here, I observed a number of vehicles parked outside of it, including a vehicle that looked to be a commercial towing truck marked Ingram Towing or Ingram Wrecker.
Well, we have a wrecker service, and we started the wrecker service in August of 1989. We had a business license to run the wrecker service out of our home, okay? And then when my husband passed away in January of 99, I moved the wrecker service over to Woodstock. So that's where the wrecker service is, and that wrecker that you seen, it burnt, and we're just waiting now to get a cab to put the bed on, and it will be removed.
So this is a shop that is used for automobiles that are raced by
Yeah.
your son?
Dirt track racing.
Okay. And then the structure you propose to build is going to be, I wrote down something like 1,600 square feet? Did I get that right?
1626, I believe.
And is that single story, such
is,
that the
just
roof
one-
line would
one
be
level.
that 1,600?
One level.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Before I turn to the county and start asking a bunch of questions, anyone else have questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I have a question. What is the square footage of the primary structure?
What was it, 1,100?
You talking about my home?
Yes.
Yeah, it's about 1,100 to 1,200 square feet.
Okay,
That's
thank
just
you.
livable space. It's got a basement on it, but the livable
Yeah.
space is just 1,100.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Brian, any comments?
A quick question. When y'all made reference to somebody wanting you to combine the lot, who is they?
The lady at the health department, when we were doing our septic system, she said you need to combine the lots, and she wouldn't have a problem with us putting a new septic system in back there, because
Okay.
with that lot line that goes through the middle of the house there, when we put that in, the fill line was 13 feet over that, I call it imaginary property line. She says you can't do that. I said, well, why not? We own all 3 lots. She said, because you may sell the house one day. I said, okay. So
Well,
she said we
okay.
need to combine the lot lines
All right.
to make this all acceptable.
Thanks for clarifying. The thing is, I think that question's outside our scope, isn't it, really, on combining? That's not something we're gonna, so just so you guys know, that's not something we
Yeah,
can do
yeah.
anything about.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it for me.
Fred, back to you.
All right, so let me turn to the gentleman to my left, from ComDev and from the county attorney's office. What issues, if any, are created by the existence of this race car structure out there that is used by her son and/or any commercial use on this property?
Can I ask a question of the applicant first?
Certainly,
Commissioner Boyne.
certainly.
Gloria, we did find some paperwork from a long time ago that showed that the record service was grandfathered on this property, that you submitted a long time ago, maybe
Yeah,
20 years
well,
ago?
that's whenever I rented out the house at 2460 Baker Road.
Okay,
Okay, that's where part of the house sits. The middle lot is 2440.
okay.
The bottom lot doesn't even have an address.
The record service never run out of that building.
Okay,
No,
so,
never.
so is the record service totally gone from this property?
Yeah.
The record service is in Woodstock,
Okay, so
completely
we don't
off
need
the
to worry about
property.
that being a grandfathered issue anymore for the record service, so that's gone.
No.
Correct.
Okay, the race cars that your son races, that he keeps in this building,
Yes.
what he does in here, I guess, with their cars and what's ever in the building, is that for his own personal use, or is it like a commercial
No,
race shop?
personal,
Just
yeah.
personal.
So it's all
Uh-huh.
personal, so
Yeah.
there's nothing
His race
commercial
cars in there.
happening?
That's where he
Yeah.
does his race car stuff.
Okay, so there's nothing commercial happening here, there's nothing grandfathered
None.
happening?
Not at all.
None.
Not gonna be.
So you see no issues there as long as we just stipulate no commercial use, we're fine.
We're good.
Okay. And what about the fact that we have, and this might require another county person here, but what about the fact that we're going to be adding about another 1,620 square feet of impervious?
And we did take a look at that, Commissioner Beloin, and with the addition of the pool house, they're gonna be at 32.5% impervious. So they're still good
Beautiful.
impervious-wise.
Thank you. So subject only to that requirement that they not make any commercial use of the structure to the south, do you see any of the stipulations we need here today of any kind to approve this?
We had talked about the property line at the work session, but I think with the answers we got today, if they want to combine all this into one lot, that's fine with us.
Okay. And are you fine with that stipulation, no commercial use for the wrecker service or
Yes.
any impound use of the lot, because this is a residential lot?
Yes.
Okay.
And no living.
And, well, no living in where?
Warehouse.
In that, in the structure to the south, but they're gonna be living in the pool house, right?
No, there'll be no living, none of those.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're good with the questions. Anyone else have any questions to the applicant? All right. I'll try to make a motion, and I anticipate that it'll be amended before it's voted on, but my motion would be to approve the request for a variance, subject to the condition or conditions that there be no commercial use of the structure to the south of this property, which currently has a 0 Baker Street address. So there will also be no commercial use of the entire lot, it being a residentially zoned lot. I specifically note that the applicant has a commercial impound and commercial wrecker service, and they won't be using it for storage of vehicles or wrecker trucks going forward. With that, additionally, that structure to the south of the site as shown on the map for V116 that's in our book this month will not be used as a separate residence at all. Anything else we need? Okay.
I've got a motion, I've got a second. Any other comments? I'll call for the vote. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to approve that 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Your business is complete. Thank you very much. All right, John, I think we're at our last one, is 119, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir. Variance case V119, Phillips Edison and Company. Request a variance to 1, reduce the minimum number of required parking spaces from 442 to 388 parking spaces. Number 2, increase the maximum allowable impervious surface from 70% to 83.5%. And 3, reduce the front setback from required 50 feet to 40 feet from the property line east of the proposed building and land lots 107 and 108 and 122 of the 20th district. The property is located at the northwest intersection of Cobb Parkway and Ackworth US Road, east of Ackworth Summit Boulevard. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case B119? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Are they all sworn in, Mr. Bates?
All right, gentlemen, let's start off with you. Give us your name, please, first.
Good afternoon, Joel Deli Carpini with Bowler Engineering, representing Phillips Edison and Company, the owner of the shopping center. Yes, sir.
Give me your name again.
Joel, Joel, Deli Carpini,
Okay.
DELLICARPINI.
Okay, thank you.
Of
Next-
course, would you spell it any other way?
And Joseph Masterson with Phillips Edison and Company.
Okay, guys, now start. Go.
Terrific, thank you very much. Again, just as summarized by John, we are seeking 3 variances. Initially, it was 2, but staff was kind enough to point out 1 additional variance. So 2 of them are just kind of cleanup variances, so to speak. 1, the overall impervious coverage for the shopping center, 70% is required. The existing is roughly 84 and change, 84%. We're going to be reducing that by about 0.8%. So we're improving the existing coverage. The second variance is that even though there's a existing McDonald's on the corner between us and Ackworth Due West Road, that the setback off of our side property line would be deemed a front yard to that street, and we would need a 50-foot setback. Our building is roughly 42 to 43 feet from that property line, which is less than, obviously, the 50 feet, so we're seeking that variance. There is 200 feet of depth on the McDonald's property, so we're actually about 240 feet away from the street there. The other variance would just be for a reduction in parking. We have very conservatively assumed, the parking requirement is based on sales area or customer area, and we very conservatively assumed 80% of our gross floor area as that, because we don't have all the measurements of inside the building and what's sales area and what is not. Based on that assumption, we would need a variance to reduce the parking to roughly about 12% below what is required. But based on reducing it down to 388, where 442 spaces would be required. Based on, and Mr. Masterson can speak to that, but based on the existing center and the usage of the parking out there, we feel this is an appropriate use. It would not reduce the parking below what is needed for the shopping center to function. It would just kind of eliminate some unnecessary impervious area that's out there today.
Just to back that up, we calculated that 80% of the center would be a customer area, so that's how the calculations came about and how we came up with being able to use that lesser amount of parking spaces to manage the center itself. So we feel pretty confident that it will still meet the guidelines of what we need for the center and also what the city can expect for a traffic control situation.
Guys, anything else you want to tell us?
That is all.
All right, is there anybody here wishing to speak in opposition to case B119? Hearing and not seeing anybody, I want to at this time introduce for the first time Mr. Fred Beloin, who's going to try to help us out to
We're
to
not
take
building
care
a
of this
she shed
case.
on the property.
He's, the chair is very upset that nobody recognized his beautiful Christmas tie so far today. But I enjoyed coming out there and looking at this property recently. My understanding, and I just want the other commissioners to understand what we're looking, or other members of the Board of Zoning Appeals here to understand what we're looking at here. And essentially, if you look at the northern edge of this, the perimeter is essentially a drive going around for purposes of servicing the doors on the back of the property for loading and
Correct.
such, correct?
Correct.
And my recollection from having visited out there is, with the exception of the upper right-hand corner where it says Land Lot 107, which is at roughly the same elevation as your property is, the balance of it, there's a pretty steep drop coming off this property to what would be further to the top of the drawing if we had more drawing there, correct?
That's correct.
And in looking at it, it looked to be a lot of natural grasses and such there to
Correct.
take care of any, alleviate most concerns about stormwater that might come from this property.
Correct.
Thank you. We're getting some good assistance here. And then also, in terms of the detention pond, which you could actually see better on the last drawing, so I've undone myself here, but thank you for that. The detention pond is actually in the upper left-hand corner, correct? Could you just point that out to us where that is? The detention pond servicing this? Right. Yeah.
Right there.
So that, the drawing around it represents what, fencing or what is that exactly? Where you see that drawing where it says Land Lot 105, Parcel 102? Yes, what does that represent?
I don't know whether it's an easement line or perhaps just a wetlands delineation on the survey. We don't have it labeled on the site plan, but I could confirm that.
Okay,
Could be a fence line, though.
okay. And my observation was that was an extremely deep, almost cavernous
Yes.
detention pond, correct?
It's oversized.
Okay. And there's good fencing around it? How long have you folks owned the shopping center?
For about 18 years.
Okay. Have there been any complaints whatsoever about any flooding incidents of any kind?
No.
Okay.
I handle the facilities for that region, and we don't have anything on record.
Okay. I was out here this weekend and noted that there was it looked to me like the parking lot was almost 80% full. Are you pretty confident there's not going to become a parking problem with the addition of additional space that'll be utilized for retail purposes?
We own about 330 shopping centers across the country, and all of them probably could be considered at the holidays to be over full or fuller than they normally are. So we take an average of the whole year, and that's how we come up with the calculations for the parking spaces. So we can't take into Christmas and Thanksgiving and those types of things, into consideration, because if we did, it would skew our numbers. So
Okay.
that's why we do it that way.
Okay, so you're almost national empirical data unto yourself then, based on the number.
Excuse me?
I said your company operates so many shopping centers, you're almost able to speak as a matter of national empirical data as to how much parking is needed to service a retail center.
We do that every day,
Okay.
yes.
And you're confident that outside of the Christmas period, that you don't anticipate any problem with the
Yes, sir.
adequacy of the parking?
Yes, we are.
Is anyone else on the, if you could, please, just walk us through what it is you want to build, and if you could show us relative to this, where the frontage, where the beginning and end of the McDonald's is on the picture here.
Sure. Actually, perhaps the McDonald's, if you want to pull up the aerial, might show that a little more accurately. Right. But as you can see, so, based on that sketch, you can see the McDonald's building really comes all the way up to this edge of parking, edge of that row of parking. So if you want to flip back to the site, or flip back to this view here. Terrific, thank you. Of course, here we go. Basically, the McDonald's building is equal in line to about this edge of parking, this edge of drive aisle here. So our building would be set back probably about 25 feet behind where the front of the McDonald's building is. We do have a 50-foot, I'm having some battery issues here. We do have a 50-foot setback here on Cobb Parkway, and our building's about 75 feet.
Okay. But having perhaps not terribly much to do with here or there on this building, but a curiosity I had, I thought I saw something that was some sort of electric order kiosk for tires in the parking lot. Did I misunderstand that? Or is that
Nothing
just?
that would be permanent.
Okay.
The building that we're proposing is a split building with a McAllister's and a York Pie Pizza occupying the building.
Okay. And McAllister's is a deli?
That's correct.
Okay. And then if you look at the parking spaces to the immediate, what on this looks to be north, and I don't know, I don't see the directions north, south, east, and west, so that it's probably not north, but up above where the McDonald's is, which
Here?
is parcel
Oh.
292.
Up in
You
here?
you see those parking spaces right in there?
Yes.
So those are yours, that's part of your lot, correct? And it appeared to me all those spaces on the far side of that were currently, or at least Sunday afternoon, were not in use. I don't know what your experience is out there as to whether you end up with de facto overflow parking from McDonald's periodically, or what usage is often made of those parking spaces. Do you have any
It's
thoughts?
possible, but there's cross-parking agreements with the other tenants, so that's what makes it appear as though you might have one section that's not as busy or as full as other sections are.
Okay. Let me open it up again, as I tried to a minute ago before I started asking more questions, see what other comments and questions folks here had.
For someone who has utilized that thing for 18 years, I lived on Aqueduct West Road before my husband passed away, and then I moved to the city of Marietta. Well, I continue to use the Kroger there for my prescriptions, so I still do to this day. So I'm up there every month, and sometimes more than that. So I do notice that the parking that's along the frontage there, usually it's just used for people who want to sell their cars.
Well, we do have a few things that happen in the parking areas that we
yeah.
don't
Yeah,
necessarily
that.
approve.
So that's normally what I observe. The parking behind there is usually used by the nail salon, this over there. So I
Yes.
can tell you everything about the shopping center. Usually there is a excessive parking. You don't see that whole thing full. I've never seen it full. Maybe a little bit more when Christmas and Thanksgiving because there more people are in the Kroger.
Right.
But as a rule, I don't think you're going to miss that additional parking being gone.
Excellent.
And tell Andrew at Kroger I said hello.
I will.
Yeah, I have just one question. The cars that are on the back side of the building, does that represent a drive-through?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, essentially, there'd be a drive-through lane around the north and west side of the pickup would be on the west side of the building.
That would
For
be
the
for the
for the
McAllen-
deli?
For the deli.
Right,
yes.
okay. That was all I had.
I think we're okay.
Okay. Just one more question of stormwater, if I could.
He almost made it.
Dave Braden with Stormwater Management Division.
Thank you, sir. Have you had an opportunity at all to for any reason, visit the structure where you could comment at all on the adequacy and/or functionality of the huge detention pond out there?
I have not been out to visit, but we have reviewed, this has been in for a concept plan through plan review for several months ago, so staff has looked at it previously, but yeah, they're actually reducing the amount of impervious coverage. There's going to be less volume going to the pond than it is now.
All right. Is there some way we could approve this today, subject to somebody from stormwater getting out there during a rainstorm and just making sure that the stormwater is actually flowing to and being received by that detention pond?
Our infrastructure shows that it is going there, yeah. We do have infrastructure for the subdivision parking lot. Yeah.
Okay.
This area does drain to that pond, that's correct.
Very good.
Yep.
Okay. And is that your understanding? I'll ask these gentlemen just to confirm that understanding.
That's correct. That's what our investigation came up with as well.
Believe it or not, it's my understanding that occasionally in the county, developers will build a detention pond that is not receiving water from the applicable area. So as long as it is, that's fine.
Yes.
You can have a seat. We'll go ahead and make a motion at this time. And again, for the county, a statement was made that a third variance is needed. in addition to the two requested by the applicant? Is anybody aware of what that third one is, so we can get the right?
There are 3 listed in the analysis right now.
Okay, and then give me the third, please, just so I know.
We got number 1, reduce
Oh.
the parking.
Oh,
Number-
I'm sorry, I see it right here.
Yeah.
Reduce the front setback from the required 50 to 40 on the property line east. And does anybody, as long as we have Amy here, and she hasn't otherwise had to work too hard today, this afternoon anyway, let me just confirm that there's no, my reason for calling you up is just to confirm there's no line of sight issue. I can't see how there would be, but just out of an abundance of caution that the setback on the front setback from the required 50 to 40 feet would not create any transportation or traffic problem with line of sight.
Amy Diaz, DOT. From the preliminary review we've done, we don't foresee a site distance problem. It will be checked again as things finalize in plan review.
Okay. Okay. And then for the engineer again, I have one more question for the engineer. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
And I guess I could have asked this of stormwater, but I just want to make absolutely certain that there are no easements, that this building is not going to be situated on top of any easements of any kind other than perhaps current cross-parking easements, which may have to be altered somehow.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, so my motion would be to approve the variance as requested. And in that regard, my concern, and I'm looking for a way to word this, is just to simply do this subject to there not being any pipes, utilities, or easements underneath the area where the building shown to the lower right of the Bowler Engineering variance plan is going to be located. Subject only to that, my motion is to approve the variances as requested, subject only to that contingency.
Well, I've got a motion, and I have a second.
It's too late to ask a question.
Go ahead.
Just with regard to easements, obviously, certainly clear on that, but if there may be a pipe or a utility underneath there that may, I can't speak for certain that we don't have that wouldn't necessarily have to be relocated.
Correct.
Through the development. So I just want to make sure we don't prohibit
Correct.
any issues there.
That's correct, and I'm sorry, I'll clarify the motion. The motion would be that it's approved such that on condition that if there are any pipes, easements, or utilities of any kind, the appropriate entities holding rights to those easements, holding any easement rights, would have to consent to any changes, and those those pipes and other utilities would have to be relocated before the building is placed there.
Got a motion. Do we understand a second? Do we understand the motion? As Henley Van Sant used to say, we have beat this horse to death pretty good. So
Yes.
I've got a motion, I've got a second. Let's call for the vote. By golly, we're going to approve it 5-0. I'm amazed. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. John, do I have any other cases to hear?
There's no other variance cases, but you do need to adopt your resolution for your
And I'm
2020
ready
dates.
to adopt a couple of the minutes. The first will be November the 3rd, and I guess I'll do these one at a time. Judy, November the 3rd. 13th.
Make a motion that we approve the November 13th variance meeting, the December the 9th work session,
Okay.
and the, what is that last one? The
Proposed
proposed
meeting
meeting dates that we approve those
for 2020.
for 2020.
Got a motion on 3. Do I have a second? Second, okay. Call for the vote. All in favor, signify. And we're going to approve that 5-0. Ladies and gentlemen, it's this time of the year for us to say to all of you folks, Merry Christmas and a happy holiday and a Happy New Year.